Dietz, save us. Please.
Passionate.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Unflinching.
Let's go back to losing. Parking was easier.
Unrelenting.
They're not going to keep him off the field tonight.
Totally.
This one has a chance.
Dietz.
That's not just a murmur, that's a full-blown fibrillation.
Good morning, Dietz. How are you, my friend?
What's going on, Snowman? How you doing, Victor?
How's it going, Dietz?
After the segment I just had, I had to bring you in to help try to save the rest of the show after the rumor I heard. Let's just focus on college football, please. I mean, look, what do you think about some of these first round matchups in the playoff?
Well, we talked about it. We talked about it on Tuesday. You know, in a great segment. Love to talk to the playmaker again. That was fun. But you know, I don't like a lot. I don't like a lot of the first round matchups. I having the interconference matchup happening that doesn't sit well with me. But you know, this is the life that they set up, and
yeah.
You know, the thing is, at the bottom, you know, pretty much 1 through 8, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it's that bottom, it's those bottom 4 that, and it's really the bottom 4, and then probably the next 2 or 3 that were just about there. You could make arguments for all of them.
Yes.
And you could put them in, and that's what my whole thing was with this is when there's no criteria, you can pretty much say whatever you want. And you can pretty much do whatever you want.
You can put anyone everywhere.
Someone has to tell me, and somebody should explain to Clemson, why is Arizona State getting a bye? Why is Arizona State considered one of the top 4 and not Clemson?
And Clemson won their conference. Clemson won the ACC.
Clemson won their conference. They beat a better opponent in their championship game. You told me that who you lose to matters. Well, they lost to 2 top 15 teams, including the one of the top 2 teams
in Georgia.
So, and their other loss in conference was against Louisville, who is also a bowl team. So, where are we going? I mean, you look at Arizona State. Yeah, they beat Iowa State.
Yeah.
Only other impressive win on their schedule is BYU, and that was at home. So
and that played to 5 points after they led big in that game.
So yeah, if you're telling me who you lose to matters, and that's why certain teams are going places. Well, Clemson probably has the best losses out of anybody. They also have the win over. They were able to beat They were able to hang on to SMU, and they really controlled that game for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
It was really the 4th quarter where SMU started to play football and got back into the game. They tied it up, and we all know what happened. The kid kicks an unbelievable field goal.
Yep.
But that being said, Clemson won the game. So why they got snubbed with not getting a bye? There's no mechanism for it. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
No, I like that Boise State got up there, but again, Boise State hasn't played any. They haven't beaten anybody.
Right.
So
and they got a top 4 seed.
Nobody really won their way to where they are. You look at Notre Dame is kind of the same way. Their one win was against Texas A&M, which was buried by the fact that Texas beat Texas A&M.
Yep.
So, Notre Dame don't really have any say. But I'm surprised that they fell as far as they did. I thought Notre Dame would be that next team. They would be that 5th team.
Right.
They end up falling, I believe, to 6 or 7.
They fell to 7. And you said all year that because and especially after the loss to Northern Illinois, and I want to concentrate there for a moment. Because of the loss to Northern Illinois, they bounced back. They ran everybody over. And because of the fact they're not in a conference, they will be set as the 5th seed. You predicted that all year. Why did they fall to 7?
They fell to 7 because they're Notre Dame, and that's really what it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure they bumped Clemson up there because of the conference championship. I'm trying to think of why they put Texas above them. Why they did all. I mean, it's not like Texas. Also, their only big time win was against Texas A&M.
Yeah.
So again, they're right in there with Notre Dame. You go along Notre Dame's schedule. They have more quality wins than Texas does. So I can't explain it. You look at what the committee did. Well, the committee looked at it and said, "Well, Texas plays in the SEC and Notre Dame doesn't." But that shouldn't matter. Again, if there was a strict criteria to this, we'd be able to say, "All right, this is why this team is here." It's not. It's basically by spot and by team. Oh, this team. Texas is ranked 6th because they're in the SEC and they lost to Georgia twice. So their losses are better than Notre Dame's loss. Well, okay. Well, if you're going by losses, why isn't Clemson higher? Why aren't these teams higher? Why is Michigan or why is Ohio State being rewarded for losing to a bad Michigan team? Well, if you said losses matter, if you said the loss matters, why is that? Why is Alabama being kept out of this when? And I understand everybody says Oklahoma was a bad loss, but they also lost to Tennessee. They also beat Georgia.
They beat Georgia.
So Alabama can go in there and make an argument for themselves. There's a lot there to talk about. SMU. I thought the ACC was a play-in game.
Yeah,
I thought whoever lost that game would be out, and SMU ends up sneaking in.
So how did SMU get rewarded for losing their conference game with a playoff spot where they got to travel to Penn State? We'll break down all the games here in a few minutes.
Well, I think what they did, and I do have to applaud the committee for this. I do think they didn't take championship weekend. They took it as, if you win, you get rewarded. If you lose, we're not going to punish you, because of that fact that I've been saying all year. You can't punish these teams for playing an extra game.
Yeah,
right. And you can't reward other teams, but at the same time, they did reward teams like Indiana, who got it. And again, Indiana, look at their schedule. Did they? You could say, yeah, they didn't lose their way out of it. Right. They didn't win their way into a playoff.
Right. They didn't.
They didn't beat. They didn't play any of the big time Big Ten teams.
Right.
they didn't play. They didn't play Oregon. They didn't play Ohio State. They didn't play Penn State.
Nope.
And actually, they did play Ohio State, and they got crushed.
They played Ohio State, and they got smacked.
That was the one big game they had. The rest of the games they didn't play the big time teams, and that's the problem with these big conglomerate conferences. We have all of these games that we don't have the top teams in each conference playing each other.
Yeah,
right.
we talked about structure earlier when it came to the Belichick situation, and for some reason, the bowl selection and the playoff selection always seems to have like this complete lack of structure. Do you think we should also add like some sort of? Because you already said we need some structure in the selection, but also could there be some structure in the schedule making? Because it seems like you can't punish a team for getting a bunch of easy games.
Well, what they've done is they've let these conferences get too big. They've let conferences get too big, and it's an easy fix if you take all these big time conferences and you just break them into divisions.
Yeah, and we had divisions in some of these conferences before.
You would now have eight divisions where you have teams playing each other, and you don't have to sit here and say, all right, well, they didn't play X, Y, and Z. Because no, if you have 16 teams in a conference, well, if you have 8 in one division, 8 in the other, guess what? You can do 7 against each. They play each other. They win their division. They get in. They get into the playoff, and then you have the two division winners play each other in the conference championship game. Whoever gets the bye. The other team gets into the playoff, and we seed them accordingly.
Right.
But everybody knows what they have to do to get in.
Right.
Everybody would then know, all right, if we finish second, if we make it to our conference championship, we're gonna get in the playoff. The other teams, all right, we need to schedule, we need to schedule some out of conference games so that if we finish third in our division, because our division is really hard, at least we can go out and say, well, we went to an out of conference. We played an out of conference game that wasn't Mercer or, as I always say, Ohio Community College. You can't have those games. If you're playing those games, you don't deserve to be in the playoff. Right,
because it's like a nobody team or a nobody school.
And you're gonna have years that are weird where one division is just so awful that you're gonna have those. You have to live with those. You can't structure it so that if the conference is really bad, we can just kick you out. Like you cannot do that.
Right.
So you have to reward teams for playing each other. And that's the problem with these big time conglomerate conferences is you look at what Georgia did.
Yeah.
Georgia, if Georgia had run the table this year, we'd be talking about Georgia being one of the best teams of all time.
Yes.
They went to Texas. They went to Alabama. They played Tennessee at home. They played Georgia Tech, which turned out to be a tough game after what they did to Miami. So you look at everybody. They started the season against Clemson, another playoff team.
Yep.
They played 4 playoff teams. When you figure they played Texas twice, they played Clemson, they played Tennessee, they also played Alabama. That's 5 games right there that are insane.
And they nearly stole that Alabama game.
Yeah, and like I said, if they had run the table and been undefeated going in, we'd be talking about this is one of the greatest teams. This is one of the hardest schedules we've ever seen somebody play.
And remember, they were held to 10 points against Mississippi on the road,
and that too. And Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss is going to play. They're going to play in a big time bowl game as well. So
Mhm.
it's like, you just keep going down their schedule. It's like they went through all this while other teams like Texas played Georgia, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. So you fix the playoff by breaking these super conferences into divisions.
I think that's the easiest. I think that's the easiest way to do it. I mean, the best way would just be to get everybody into conferences that are like conferences and have them play it out on the field. But we all know that's a pipe dream, and that's never going to happen.
True.
But you have to make it. You have to reward teams for playing games in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you stop doing that, and that's my fear of looking at how teams got into the bottom of the bracket. SMU didn't play anybody, but they had one loss. Okay, but they didn't beat anybody.
Right.
Indiana had one loss, but they didn't beat anybody. Ohio State, yeah, they beat Penn State and Indiana, but they lost to Oregon. They lost to Michigan.
Mm-hmm. They had a rematch with Oregon on their doorstep,
right?
And they choked it away by losing to Michigan.
And they choked it away. I mean, they got lucky that Miami got beat by Syracuse. They got lucky that Alabama got beat by Oklahoma. They lucked out for other teams losing, but they didn't win their way in.
Right.
And that's what I've been saying this whole time is you make it about winning. You make it winning your way to the playoff.
Right.
Not all right, we just didn't lose. That's not helpful for college football, because if I'm Alabama next year, I'm looking at my schedule and I'm saying, all right, well, we're going to play tough teams in the SEC, so we might as well just play nobody in the out of conference, and we can get 10 wins and be happy. We can get 10 wins and we have a shot at the playoff. Well, yeah. If every team starts doing that, we're not going to have fun Saturday college football until we get into conference play and they're forced to play each other.
Yeah,
and that's not something we want.
And for the longest time, when I first started watching college football, that's how it was. Nothing happened until you got into conference play. Speaking of the ACC, after a break, we'll hear Dietz's thoughts on the hiring of Bill Belichick, who's now wearing Carolina blue. And I can't wait to hear Dietz's thoughts on